Teaching is safe. Educating is dangerous. And the theme of this conference is dangerous. So we're going to have a dangerous time educating. If I teach you, I have measurable outcomes. I have a clear plan of what is going to happen. That's safe. If I educate you, I have no idea what will happen. I know some themes I might like to encourage you to work with, but I have no idea how you will respond and what you will say or ask or where the conversation will go. So if you can be flexible with me, we might have an interesting time. I suppose many of you are Christians. I don't know if you all are Christians. Somehow, I hope some of you are not Christians. I mean, not because I hope you're not Christians, but because I find non-Christians very interesting, and often more interesting than Christians, because Christians can be a bit more predictable than non-Christians in discussion. So if any of you are not Christians, absolutely welcome. Glad to see you. A question is the beginning of a discussion. Many Christians, and also other types, tend to begin a discussion with the conclusion, which is actually not very intelligent. But it's a very common practice. Someone makes a statement, gives the answer, and then the other person says yes or no, and that's the end. Not productive. But a question, it's very difficult to say yes or no to a question. You can reject a statement, but it's not so easy to reject a question. It's possible to say, that question is wrong, but it's difficult. To say that statement is wrong is easy, but to say that question is wrong is very difficult. It can happen, but it's very difficult. The question opens up a dialogue and brings people into connection with each other. Statements very often separate people from each other. A statement is like a proclamation. Those of you who are Christians, you know Jesus is the answer. You don't know what the questions are, but you do know that Jesus is the answer. Okay? And you are prepared to proclaim this fact. Jesus is the answer, the gospel. Proclamation is a tool of, yes?
Proclamation.
To proclaim is to say out loud, to state, particularly publicly. A proclamation is a tool of evangelism or apologetics, and it's like a hammer. A hammer is a very good tool. The difficulty is, to the person with a hammer, everything looks like a nail. But not everything is a nail, and the hammer is not always the appropriate tool. So, speaking of connecting with people, God made me a Christian. But before that, He made me a human being. When human beings become Christians, it's very important not to forget that you are a human being. Because in the area of being a Christian, you have very little in common with most of the people that you meet. But in the area of being a human being, you have very much in common with everybody that you meet. Where should you start? With being a human being, rather than being a Christian. To say, I'm a Christian. I mean, lovely, I'm glad for you, but it might be very counterproductive to say that, because it's alienating. And also, people have all kinds of weird ideas about what you mean, depending on the culture that they come from. So if you were Swiss, and someone said, I am a Christian, you would think, oh, you belong to the Landeskirche. You belong to the Landeskirche, to the state church, to the Swiss Reformed Church. That's what Christian means. So if you're a Baptist, you're in a sect. If you're a Methodist, you're in a sect. If you're Swiss Reformed or Catholic or Anglican or Lutheran, you're in a church, because a church is backed by a sovereign power. The state of Sweden, or the Queen of England, or the government of Switzerland, or something like that. Then that's a church. But if the church is not supported by a sovereign power, or Serbian Orthodox, that's church. But Serbian Baptist, no, that's not church at all. This is very Swiss, and then it's very funny. So if you say, I am a Christian, people will understand it in all kinds of different ways, really different ways. Sometimes shocking. So I have a friend who's a journalist, and he was in Japan. He was there at Christmas, and he told me Christmas is a big commercial season in Japan. There are very few Christians in Japan, but they sell lots of things and give presents and decorate for Christmas because it's international and it's cool, and you can sell stuff with Christmas. And there was a big department store, and they decorated for Christmas, and they had a 12-story white neon cross on the outside of their department store with a crucified Santa Claus. Yes. Now that, you just, that's just terrible. But if you're Japanese, you think, Christians, Jesus, wise men, camels, Santa Claus. It's all mixed. It's just, yeah, seppuku. So if you say, I am a Christian, people don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what idea they have. I mean, especially in Japan. You don't know what they might think. They'll probably think you're a Jesuit in Japan, because the Portuguese Jesuits came to Japan, and that's how Christianity got started a little bit. So we're going to talk about asking questions rather than giving answers in order to relate and connect with different kinds of people. Now, a lot of questions can be answered without Jesus. Like, what time is the next train? What's for lunch? When does the bowling alley open? You really don't need Jesus to answer these questions. But questions about meaning, purpose, guilt, forgiveness, identity, origins, future, these fundamental questions of human life, if the Bible is true, you need Jesus to answer these questions.